In 2010, I was intrigued um, when I tried to, and I think I succeeded in reading the code, the blockchain code. I used to be, a mathematician in another life, so um, it was not completely worthless for me to try to understand the algorithm. And I looked at it and I thought, my goodness, this is absolutely brilliant blockchain. And I have no doubt that it is. A decentralized ledger which allows a complete record and full transparency while preserving anonymity in transactions is just a piece of brilliance, no doubt. And I wrote an article, I gave an interview as well, and I remember saying in the interview and writing in the article that, you know, blockchain is a fantastic solution to a problem we have not yet discovered, but it is not a solution to the problem of money. And Bitcoin is certainly not money. Firstly, it can never be a genuine currency, never. And secondly, it should never be a currency. The reason why it can never be a currency is because in the end, you said that, it doesn't have intrinsic value. One could say this about the dollar. We don't live in the gold standard anymore. The dollar's value comes from the fact that you can use it to repay US taxes with it. That's where it comes from. It's not intrinsic value, it's political value. It's the fact that it is state money, and therefore you can use to extinguish your obligations to the state. And since the United States state is a very big player in the world, that gives value to the US dollar. End of story. Bitcoiners celebrate Bitcoin because it's not state money, but if you take this to its natural logical conclusion, it means it can never be a currency if it's not state money. And secondly, suppose that, you with a magic wand, you turned it into the only currency around. It would be catastrophic. We'd all be now in very dire straits, far worse than we are now, because it's fixed supply. Now, what happens when you have a pandemic and you need to increase the money supply? You cannot increase the money supply of Bitcoin because it's fixed. It is preposterous. The gold standard, was one that was always abandoned, where the money supply had to increase, either because of war, pestilence, the Spanish flu crisis, whatever. It was always abandoned, and then supposedly they pretended to go back to it. Now, I agree with one thing you said. Stable coins, I don't buy them, because who's going to run them, and who's going to guarantee? I mean, you already see that that existing stable coins have lost all credibility in terms of, how much money, real money, that is, dollars, yen, euros, they keep in the bank in order to stabilize the stable coin. Who's going to check on them? The state. If it is a state, what's the point of having a stable coin? Then we should go towards one thing that you mentioned, and I'm very keen on: central bank cryptocurrencies, central bank digital money. That's the way to go. And for me, that really kills two birds, or more than two birds, with one stone. Remember, I said before that we need to cut out the middleman in QE. We now print money, or the Federal Reserve prints money, gives it to the bank, and then the bank lends it to corporations, and the corporations go to the stock exchange, and the whole thing is wasted. Now, what if instead, if the Fed wants to stimulate the economy, instead of giving to the bankers, you and every resident of the United States, me once upon a time when I was a resident of the United States, they get a digital bank account with the Federal Reserve, and the money goes into that. Technically,
huge threat to the financial system, though, and will Wall Street allow it?
Exactly. The whole point is cut Wall Street out. You see, it is preposterous that we take it for granted that Wall Street should have the monopoly of the payment system. Why should they have the monopoly of the banks? Why are we assuming that payments, when you want to buy a book from Amazon, that you should go through some private bank? Why should a private bank be cut into that deal, into that, relationship between you and Amazon? Shouldn't. Why should they charge you a fee when they do nothing? It costs them, the marginal cost is zero. according to Adam Smith, not left-wing, but liberal values, the price should be zero. They should not charge you anything for that. Of course, if they have the monopoly of the payment system, of course they will charge you. That's what it's in the nature of the beast. So imagine that, and I'm not saying ban Wall Street. They need to offer you a service that the central bank digital currency doesn't offer you. And let's have some competition there. So imagine if in the end, a central bank digital currency would mean that if everybody has a bank account with the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve can actually put money into people's accounts, depending. So if they want to stimulate the economy, you can introduce a universal basic dividend, something like $300 a month, but that goes into every American residents, and then they can be taxed if they're rich at the end of the year, so the Treasury can get some of it back, right? That's one way of the Federal Reserve funding the Treasury through the tax system, and completely fairly. The poor people don't give anything away or back to the state, but the rich people do. You can even tax 100% of this UBD, Universal Basic Dividend. What you would end up with at that stage is, a spreadsheet with the Federal Reserve, where each resident is one row. And effectively what happens is when you buy a bicycle, some numbers migrate from your cell to the cell of the bicycle seller, right? And if that was based on a blockchain, so that everybody could see how much money there is in the system, so the politicians and the Federal Reserve could not pull a fast one over you as a citizen. They could not, inflate without you knowing. You would know how much, now you don't know how much money is in the system. You really don't know how much money there is in the system, in the financial system. But with this central bank digital currency based on the blockchain, everybody would know how much money there is in the system. No government or central bank would be able to fool the people, right, by inflating behind their backs, while at the same time you would preserve complete anonymity in transactions. That's where a blockchain would help create a political version of a cryptocurrency that can be controlled democratically, because money is always going to be political. And the question is it going to be democratized or not? And I'm afraid that many of those who got really excited by Bitcoin because they thought that it would democratize money are completely wrong, because Bitcoin does not, given its fixed supply and the fact that there's no democratic mechanism for determining who gets how many Bitcoins, it creates a kind of feudalism of early adopters within Bitcoin and speculators. So, so I don't have I love blockchain. I side with Warren Buffett when it comes to Bitcoin.
Okay. It sounds like you agree with Christine Lagarde, though, in terms of CBDCs and adoption and the ECB.
Yeah, but is she ever going to have the courage? Because I know Christine personally, to come out and say we'll cut out the middleman. Yeah, that I think is the main thing. If you see, I fear that even if she agrees with what I'm saying, she will lose her job tomorrow morning if she says those words.